You want to do a cannabis startup? This is the video for you. Cannabis startups are getting hot again with marijuana moving to Schedule 3. It'll be easier to get capital, banking, and much more profitable with complex tax laws that hindered legal cannabis industry's growth under its current Schedule 1 status. Cannabis startups are something I know quite a bit about. I've made a lot of them for my clients, and even one for me and Miggy that you can learn more about by subscribing to us and tuning in on Sundays.
What's happening, Miggy? You got a cat in the back, man.
I do. They had one on the table, too. Got under a cat attack. Watch out.
How many cats do you have?
We got a dispensary in a limited marketed state called Illinois, and we plan to flip a lot of that license and hope to be open by spring of 2024. And it only cost us $250 to do. Imagine that. Getting into an industry worth millions of dollars for just $250 in an easy to complete form that only took us 10 minutes. What a dream. Only in America. Well, to be honest, there was also a lot of other stuff that took forever, besides the stuff that only took 10 minutes. I mean, saying it was so easy, that's totally misleading. Our cannabis startup took over 10 years of me working and serving clients in many areas of the law. Some luck in having the cannabis industry to get into and a few years of experience in it, and then more luck in winning a lottery that Miggy happened to qualify us for by being super social equity. And more luck that Miggy and I were activists for over a decade and started this podcast 4 years ago.
Scared of it like with marijuana, but in ours, it's like literally still the term of law.
So just like Tom Clancy said in The Hunt for Red October, your cannabis startup can be an overnight success 10 years in the making. For example, social equity may be a gatekeeper to your cannabis startup, and you really have no control over it unless you were lucky enough to get arrested for smoking weed years ago. Nobody thought when they got popped in 2011 that it could help them or their kids or parents be eligible to get a cannabis business license 10 years later. However, in many states, you cannot get a license without social equity. Plus, it's really tricky because each state has their own definition of social equity. So while Miggy was social equity in Illinois, he was not social equity in his residence of Washington, but was social equity in Missouri, but not in Maryland or New York. So as you can see, the rules are all over the map. When you're trying to get a company going in the legal cannabis industry, very often each state self-deals and tries to require residency to be eligible to be awarded a cannabis business license. These states see cannabis as a boon for tax revenue and also as a way to reward their own citizens, or political constituents and donors, and exclude people from out of state. Lawyers like myself have sued over this self-dealing by states to support their local cannabis startups and exclude out-of-state brands pursuant to the Dormant Commerce Clause, and it usually wins, except for one case from 2023 out of Washington State. But that case completely depends on Schedule 1 THC, which is not long for this world. We don't see that case being repeated, so your startup should be able to open its doors in any legal cannabis state, either where you live or where you want to open. But if you don't live there, you may have to sue to get into that state. Also, your startup needs to be aware that cannabis is a super local business because of how political it is. As you may have heard, all politics is local, unless you're too young to remember Tip O'Neill. He was the Speaker of the House 40 years ago. Local politics controls zoning, which you need to get to be operational. So having someone local on your cannabis startup is almost as important as having luck and the right social equity partner. A person that hates cannabis can show up at your special use permit hearing and raise hell, or there is some other level of compliance that the city will impose on your startup to get operational. Opening a dispensary in a heavily regulated state, just like yours, can result in delays in getting operational because of the numerous hurdles and hoops that you must jump through in order to be awarded your operational certificate and begin licensed business operations. Speaking of hoops, imagine that your municipality or state regulator basically requires a completely new build-out and hundreds of thousands of dollars in security systems to become operational. Then you need to build a website, you need to train staff, and get final approval from regulators before being able to start those commercial operations. That costs millions of dollars. Heck, so does opening a McDonald's. So chill out. If you don't have someone on your team that can shell out that kind of cash, well, if you do win that license without the money, you can find your cannabis startup in a really tricky spot. That's where guys like me, and there are like 3 of me in the country, can help you out. Because we could run the numbers on how much cash flow you should be able to do and shop that offer to operators that did not win the license but do want in on those cash flows. So you're gonna have to get someone that has the money to get open and to make an offer to them. Ideally by giving them the real estate and also control of the operation. operations. If you know that they can do the job well because you have seen their operations in other states, that experience can save you months and make you millions of dollars. They may not have won the license, but that smart cannabis startups that has won the license because they are social equity and really lucky can actually benefit by giving up control and getting operational ASAP. And if you want help on this or to know more about it, like this video, subscribe to the channel, tune in, and visit us over at CannabisIndustryLawyer.com and check out this video coming up next.